At 3 in the morning, when the lights of Las Vegas dimmed just enough to feel human again, Paul Anka would sit alone in a quiet suite, jacket draped over a chair, tie loosened, staring at a city that thought it knew him. The applause was still, echoing in his ears. The crowd had sung every word back to him. To them, he was certainty, a legend, a man whose voice never wavered. But behind the closed door, something else lived with him. Something carefully hidden for decades. And for 30 years, no one asked the one question that mattered most. Who was Paul Anka when the music stopped? For most of the world, the story is simple. A teenage prodigy from Ottawa writes Diana and becomes a global star before he can legally drink. He moves with ease through eras that swallow lesser artists. Rock and roll, Vegas crooner, songwriter for Sinatra. Reinvention after reinvention. Success that looks almost effortless. But stories that feel too perfect usually are. And somewhere, between the standing ovations and the private flights, another life began to take shape quietly, deliberately, in the shadows of fame. It started innocently. At least, that's what those close to him would later say. A chance introduction. In the late 70s. A woman who wasn't part of the industry. Who no cameras, no contracts, just long conversations that stretched past midnight. She knew nothing about record sales or chart positions. She didn't ask about Sinatra. She asked about fear, about loneliness, about what it cost to be admired by millions and truly known by no one. And Paul Anka, the consummate performer, did something he rarely did. He listened. As the years went on, the division became sharper. By day, he was exactly who the world expected. Charismatic, controlled, smiling on cue. By night, he was somewhere else entirely, sometimes in a different city, sometimes under a different name. Hotel clerks, remember him asking not to be recognized? Friends noticed he stopped bringing people backstage. Interviews became safer, rehearsed, almost guarded. Was it exhaustion? Or was he protecting something fragile that fame could destroy? There were close calls. A canceled appearance explained away as illness. A rumor quietly buried by publicists. A photograph that never made it to print. Each time, the machine of celebrity did its job. And each time, the secret survived. For years, two lives ran in parallel, never fully colliding. One built on sound and spotlight. The other, on silence and risk. How long can someone live split in half before something breaks? Those closest to him describe a man constantly measuring his words, his movements, his own reflection. Fame gave him everything except permission to be himself. And so he learned to compartmentalize, to love quietly, to hurt privately, to perform joy while carrying fear like a second heartbeat. Imagine standing on stage, thousands of people chanting your name, while knowing that one wrong revelation could rewrite your legacy overnight. Would you tell the truth, or would you keep singing? The turning point didn't come from a scandal, or an expose. It came from age. From the slow realization that time is the one audience you can't impress. Friends say he began asking different questions. What would remain when the applause faded? What stories would be told when he could no longer correct them? And most of all, was the price of silence finally too high? When the truth began to surface, it didn't arrive with shockwaves. It arrived quietly, almost tenderly. A confirmation here, a memory recontextualized there. Fans revisited old interviews and heard pauses they'd missed before. Lyrics took on new meanings. Suddenly, the love songs felt heavier, the heartbreak more specific. Had he been telling the truth all along, just in a language no one thought to translate? Reactions were mixed. Some felt betrayed, as if an image had been stolen from them. Others felt relief, even pride, that someone they admired had survived something so isolating. And then there were those who asked the hardest question of all. Why did we make it so dangerous for him to be honest in the first place? Paul Anka never asked to be a symbol. He wanted to be a singer, a writer, a man allowed complexity. For 30 years, he carried a secret not because he wanted mystery, but because the world he lived in demanded simplicity. Good or bad, hero or headline, there was no room for nuance. Backstage so now, when the music fades and the lights come up, what do we do with the full story? Do we reduce it to gossip, or do we finally listen? How many other lives like his are hidden in plain sight, smiling through fear, waiting for a safer moment that may never come? Because maybe the real twist isn't that Paul Anka lived a double life. Maybe it's that he had to pursue. And the question that lingers long after the song ends is this: if someone that famous could feel that alone, what does that say about the rest of us, and what truths are we still too afraid to hear?